If you don't have a perfect eidetic memory like Sheldon Cooper, here's a refresher to lay out how he went from boy genius in Texas to eccentric young adult genius in California. The first season of Young Sheldon kicks off with the main character's first day of high school. It's 1989, and Sheldon Cooper is in for a bit of a bumpy ride. Even at the age of 9, he stands out like a sore thumb, and his older brother Georgie isn't exactly thrilled to have his kid brother attending the same school. The first season also introduces the rest of the Cooper family, including Sheldon's parents, George and Mary. They both care deeply for their younger son, even if they aren't always sure how to relate to him. There's also Sheldon's grandmother, Connie, affectionately known as Mima, and his twin sister, Missy. As Sheldon's school year gets underway, he starts learning more about how to relate to the people around him. He's also presented with some great opportunities to dig into his scientific interests when he meets a physics professor named Dr. Sturgis. By the end of season 1, it's 1990, and Sheldon is in his second semester of high school. The 1990s are well underway by the time Young Sheldon season 2 gets going. Sheldon is still taking college physics with Dr. Sturgis, but now he's no longer the only kid in the class. A girl named Paige Swanson, who's slightly younger than Sheldon, makes her first appearance in the second episode of the season and becomes a bit of an arch rival.
Checkmate. You lose.
Then in the episode Carbon Dating and a Stuffed Raccoon, Paige and Sheldon run into each other at a museum, where she tells him that her parents are fighting all the time and might get divorced. And in a stunted childhood and a can of fancy mixed nuts, Paige and Missy become friends and bond at a sleepover, much to Sheldon's chagrin. The other Coopers are going through their own struggles around this time as well. Mary gets pregnant but then has a miscarriage, Georgie struggles with bullies at school, and Connie's dating Dr. Sturgis, but they're having some relationship problems. Towards the end of season 2, Sheldon gets a perfect score in the PSAT and starts getting tons of attention from various colleges. This leads to some strain for his family, who aren't quite ready for him to leave home yet. Colleges are hotly pursuing Sheldon in season 3, and he's starting to develop some new interests. He becomes obsessed with solving the unified field theory that once managed to stump Albert Einstein, and he sets his sights on attending Caltech. His parents manage to convince him that it's too early for him to leave home just yet, so they urge him to become a full-time college student at East Texas Tech, with Dr. Sturgis as his professor. Everyone else is also keeping busy, as Missy joins a baseball team, Georgie juggles 2 different love interests, and George Sr. mulls over competing coaching offers. Paige returns and reveals that her parents have divorced, which prompts her to shake up her personal style and lose her focus on school. Season 4 opens around May 1991, with Missy graduating from elementary school, while Sheldon is the valedictorian of his high school class. He suddenly gets nervous about the whole ordeal, but Missy manages to talk him through his anxieties.
That's why I said it, dumbass.
The summer of 1991 is a busy time for everyone. Georgie is getting closer with his girlfriend Jana, but they also have a bit of a pregnancy scare. Meanwhile, Sheldon and Missy are sent off to Bible camp, where they reunite with Paige. In the fall, Sheldon is preparing for college when he learns that Dr. Sturgis has taken a job working on the superconducting super collider. Despite not having his mentor there anymore, he decides to forge ahead and go to college anyway. But then his philosophy professor accidentally sends him into an existential crisis that leads him to question the validity of scientific inquiry.
Nothing I know is real. Everything is a dream.
Sheldon recovers from that dilemma just in time for the college's president to ask for his help recruiting Paige as a new student. Meanwhile, Missy is having relationship problems after she finds her boyfriend holding hands with another girl. Sheldon comforts her, and season 4 ends with the two of them talking together in the woods while their parents are in the middle of a huge fight back home. Season 5 picks up right where season 4 left off. It's 1992, and things are still tense. After getting into a huge fight with Mary, George Sr. ends up at a bar playing pool with their neighbor Brenda Sparks. Before things can go any further, George has a heart attack and ends up in the hospital. He makes a full recovery, but he doesn't tell Mary about what almost happened between him and Brenda. The guilt eats away at him though, especially later in the season when financial troubles lead to Mary getting a job at the bowling alley where Brenda also works. Meanwhile, Georgie decides to drop out of high school to work full-time. His parents aren't happy about that, but they eventually let him move into the garage and pay rent. Soon after, he meets a 29-year-old woman named Mandy, and he lies about his age to get her to go out with him. They break up after the truth comes out, but then Mandy ends up getting pregnant. George and Mary are shocked, but supportive, especially after Mandy's family disowns her. As for Sheldon, he gets his first pimple in the season finale and realizes that adulthood is coming for him.
I stood before a whole new teenage world of music, slang words, and even clothing styles.
It's still 1992 when season 6 begins, and the fortunes of the Cooper clan haven't improved much. Connie and Georgie are in custody along the Mexican border after trying to smuggle 400 cartons of cigarettes into the country. They were hoping to sell them at Connie's secret casino to help with the family's money problems. George comes to bail them out, along with Connie's on-again, off-again boyfriend Dale. Georgie then focuses on preparing for his and Mandy's baby, while Missy decides to get her first job to help with the family's finances. Sheldon is going through his own financial struggles at this time, as he develops the idea for a large database that could help scientists find funding for their research. The college wants to cash in on the idea, as does Dr. Linkletter, a rival of Dr. Sturgis's. But when they suggest taking a 90% cut of any profits, Sheldon decides to search for a private investor instead. He eventually connects with a rather eccentric investor who offers enough money for Sheldon and Dr. Sturgis to start working on the project together.
Hey, if you're not ruthless, you're toothless.
I like that.
Sheldon's database project unfortunately turns out to be a huge flop. He ends up disillusioned by the entire ordeal, even though Dr. Sturgis tries to encourage him to treat the failure as a learning experience. Meanwhile, the rest of the family's attention is primarily on Georgie and Mandy's baby. Shortly after she gives birth to their daughter Cece, he proposes, but she turns him down at first. But then after a day together at a spa, she changes her mind. While all of this is happening, Missy is becoming frustrated by the lack of attention from everyone. She gets left at school and misses the birth of her niece, so she responds by stealing her dad's truck. She then meets up with Paige, and the two of them decide to run away. They get caught though, and Missy is grounded by her parents. But that's not enough to stop her from continually sneaking out. Worried about his sister, Sheldon rats her out one night, and then they have a huge fight when their parents ground Missy for the entire summer.
I hate you.
For Sheldon, the summer is shaping up to be quite different, as he's presented with the opportunity of spending part of it at a German university. Alas, the Coopers can't really afford that, but then Dr. Sturgis and members of the local church manage to collect enough money to send him on his way. Mary goes along with him, but the bad luck continues at home as a tornado hits town and destroys Connie's house. Everyone is still reeling from the tornado at the start of season 7, which opens in 1993. Mary wants to take Sheldon home, but he convinces her to stay in Germany long enough to finish his classes. For the first time in his life, Sheldon isn't the smartest person in class, but he learns to deal with that discomfort and enjoy the new experience. Back in Texas, everyone is trying to put their lives back together. Connie is searching for a way to earn enough money to pay for the house repairs that her insurance won't cover. George starts writing letters to Mary, while Missy essentially takes over running the house, and Georgie and Mandy set a date to head down to City Hall to get married. When Mary and Sheldon return from Germany, the truth is finally revealed about a critical moment that had been teased in The Big Bang Theory. In the original series, Sheldon says that he caught his father cheating on his mom, and that finally happens in the episode Ants on a Log and a Cheating Winker. Or at least Sheldon thinks it does. It turns out that he actually accidentally walks in on his parents while Mary is wearing a wig and role-playing as a German woman named Helga. Sheldon never learns the truth, but the incident inspires his quirk of knocking 3 times before entering a room.
I never talked to my father about what I saw that day, but from then on, I added extra knocks so people could get their pants on.
By the end of season 7, it's 1994, and everyone is getting ready to move on with their lives. Georgie and Mandy get married, and though there's still some lingering tension with her family, they're learning to deal with their issues together while raising Cece. Elsewhere, Sheldon has a flood of offers from potential graduate schools, and he initially settles on MIT. But when he and his dad arrive in Massachusetts, they encounter a massive snowstorm. So Sheldon quickly changes his mind and decides that Caltech is actually the right place to go. Meanwhile, Connie is occupied by her legal troubles. She got arrested when her secret casino was discovered, thereby forcing her to work with a probation officer to avoid going to jail. The rest of the family helps out, but they're also getting ready for another big change. George is offered a football coaching job at Rice University, so the family decides it's time to move to Houston. Sadly though, it's not meant to be. At the end of the episode A New Home and a Traditional Texas Torture, the Cooper family learned the devastating news that George has suffered a fatal heart attack. His final words to his family make his death even more heartbreaking, as he simply told them,
"See y'all later."
Mary is understandably filled with anguish, while Sheldon imagines himself giving a speech at the funeral that mentions all the things he never got to say to his dad. The series finale of Young Sheldon sees the Coopers still recovering from George's death. Mary has decided that she wants her children to be baptized, and Sheldon only agrees to go through with it if he can wear a scuba suit. Missy and Sheldon have one last heart-to-heart conversation before he makes his way to Caltech. The finale also gives us a peek at the main character's life sometime after the end of The Big Bang Theory, as an adult Sheldon is writing a memoir about his time growing up in Texas. After taking this opportunity to reflect on how his parents raised him, Sheldon feels inspired to spend more time with his wife Amy and their 2 children. They go to their son Leonard's hockey game, while Amy also mentions that their daughter is interested in acting classes. As they leave their house, Sheldon has one last flashback to the moment that he arrived on the Caltech campus, and he remembers feeling like he truly belonged there from the get-go.
I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.